Seattle City Council race that I dare say most Seattleites don't even remember. I'm fascinated by the fact that you think it's worthy of a movie, and not only just any old movie, but a movie with apparently nationwide appeal to star as big a name as Jason Biggs in it. So explain what you saw in a teeny tiny little city council race over a decade ago, Steven.
Well, I actually think that in many ways it is the little races across the country, everywhere, that are going to really change this country, or at least keep the country going. So it doesn't matter where you kind of pick one; they're all over the place. Grassroots candidates are all over the place. People with passion are all over the country, all over the world, actually.
Yeah.
And that's really where democracy happens. So I picked this because I felt, there were wonderful elements. There was the monorail, this beautiful sort of modern structure that Grant Cogswell was in love with, and of course there's the polar bear. So between that and this this sort of bromance between these two wacky slacker characters, I couldn't think of actually a better story to tell.
Perfect. So let's start with, what is the monorail sort of takes on a kind of a role, a thematic role in the movie. Talk about the significance of the monorail in the script and or your movie.
Well, I think it's about, in some ways, you go back to 1962, the World's Fair, the dream of the future, the hope of the future. I think so many of us nowadays have lost track of that. And in fact, what Grant Cogswell with these characters feel is some hope about the future. And I think there is hope in the future. I think we've got a tough road to hoe in some ways, but we have to have characters like the characters in this movie who just sort of dream and then act on those dreams.
Now, do you think it's like quixotic? Do you think it's sort of a doomed plan? I mean, the monorail, the great thing about the monorail, I mean, it took over a decade for Seattle. We voted on like 4 or 5 or 6 times. I mean, we kept passing it, and they said, well, we don't have the money. It kept passing. I mean, back and forth. Do you think that the monorail represents that impossible dream, or do you think that that's as legitimate a vision of transportation in the future as you can get?
I think it may be an impossible dream because actually it makes sense.
Oh.
And in terms of what goes on so much in the world of politics and business, things that make sense don't necessarily make a huge profit.
Yes.
So one of the problems, I think 2 of the problems with the monorail were that it didn't use enough concrete. And that's a profit-making element for most construction people. And also, it didn't need a driver, and that was an issue for the unions. So, and I think, those are tough issues. I'm a strong believer in the union, and I'm also a capitalist. I mean, I believe in both of those things. And yet I think ultimately you have to look to the future, and it's those quixotic people, it's those crazies to some degree, who see into the future. And I think the monorail is going to emerge down the line as a really terrific system.
Huh.
And I think in a funny way we'll see if this movie doesn't have a little teeny tiny effect on maybe Seattle rethinking it a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think what finally doomed it, there was some kind of financial, analysis that seemed, even to the supporters, that, well, that seems a little out of whack. But anyway, that's
we can spend hours on that.
Yes, I know. I'm not believe me. I was one of those.
That ain't comedy, though. That's not comedy. We made a comedy here.
That's right. It's damn funny, and that's where you come in, Jason Biggs. So I'm interested in you. You are. You mentioned this is kind of a bromance of sorts. You've got a crazy city council member, and for some reason, when I just heard that you were in the cast, I just assumed that you're going to play Grant Cogswell. Mm-hmm. Instead, you're kind of like the straight man to the Cogswell character, sort of crazy antics. So what was the appeal to you, again, of a very small local, you're not a Seattleite, it's a very kind of small parochial interest. What attracted you to the project?
Well, I liked the specificity of the project, and and it's sort of, it is very, it is just a slice of life in this city, in America, but the story it tells is, I think it's a bigger story.
Yeah.
Clearly it's got, Steven touched on the bromance element, which was what initially I sparked to the most, because that relationship between Phil and Grant Cogswell is it's a really special one, and over the course of the film, it's one that develops in a very real and funny way, where ultimately you're rooting for both of these guys.
Right.
And regarding the political sort of undertones of this film. It's it certainly is quite timely. I mean, we shot it 2 years ago, but it's for me, where I'm at in my life, it's something that I'm becoming much more aware of, and it's becoming a part. I'm having conversations, and being more aware about these kinds of things on a local level. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm just now, and part of it is because of the film, being more aware of sort of grassroots politics and those smaller campaigns, and it's a great thing, and it's a thing that I think a lot of people tend to ignore and lose sight of for the bigger sort of the bigger issues.
Yeah, what is remarkable about this movie, again, it's a decade old in its time frame, actually set in the time right before 9/11, which we talked to. Fascinating how that plays into the campaign, but it seems to anticipate the whole Occupy Wall Street 99% versus the 1%. So, is this a timely release, would you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I mean, it is a political movie, and it is an election coming up, and it's an election where I think grassroots particularly matters. I couldn't have planned this with the super PACs and the super money and the feeling that everyone feels hopeless. I think, the man on the street and the woman on the street kind of feel left out of the whole thing. This film is about saying, you don't need to be left out. You can have a sense of humor about it. And as one of the things I want to say to people is, the super PACs, super money, superheroes. All these movies about superheroes, which I enjoy, there are no superheroes. People may not understand this because the films are so well made, they don't exist. There is no superhero, there is no super person who's going to come in and save this country and save the roads and save the schools. It's the little people. It is the normal person on the street. It's the person who you can't possibly imagine would run for office or would work for someone running for office. And this film is about these two crazy slacker dudes who decide to do it, a true story. And it's really saying any of you can go out and do the same thing. You can run for office. You can work for others who run for office. You can stop being depressed, stop being cynical, and go out and really change things and have a good time about it. And one of the last things I just want to say is that we are going to try in Seattle, and I want people to help us with this, because this is all about empowering, is to get local candidates, grassroots candidates, to come after each screening of the show in the theater. We're at the Harvard exit starting on June 22nd, and we want to have, after every screening for like 5 or 10 minutes, candidates, whether the dog catcher, running for dog catcher, city council, governor, less that, but more the local people, come in and talk for 5-10 minutes and go to a coffee shop, and we'll continue the conversation so that we're really kind of spotlighting grassroots politics. So it's more than just a movie, more than just a comedy. It's a whatever it is.
It's a call to action.
It's a call to action. It's a movement.
And this is I think, they're of course very welcome, as long as they buy tickets, to be clear, as long as they buy tickets to our movies. So
they can buy 3 tickets,
and then they can have 20 minutes.
That's right.
They can have 20 minutes.
Very good.
3 tickets.
Well, I like this idea that this. Initially, I thought you were starting off saying this is the perfect, which it is. It's perfect counter programming to the big budget sci-fi movies, the Avengers and the Prometheus and all of that. At the same time, you actually see, and I've been checking out your blog. You actually are a political guy. You're talking about the significance of Coney 2012 and Obama. Where do you stand on Obama's second term? By the way, you seemed a little disappointed in some of your blogs.
I feel profoundly betrayed by Obama. I feel very angry about what he's done. I feel like he's done things on Wall Street that I'm not happy about, and I will work so hard for Obama. It's not even funny. I think all of us out there who have been, sort of saddened by how he's, handled this presidency, better wake up and understand how politics really works. Van Jones, who I think is a wonderful thinker, said to a group of people, and he's right, grow up. Yeah. This is a contact sport. They're out there to play tough, be tough back. work for him, and I'm going to work very, very hard for him. And I'm also going to work really, really hard, hopefully, with this movie, just to have a dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this movie crosses a lot of areas. I know a lot of right-wing friends of mine, and I do have right-wing friends, really have liked the movie, and we want to have right-wing Tea Party candidates even come in and talk, because it's really about believing in the process of democracy. It's really believing, even people who bully a little bit, bully back, fight back, but don't sit there and and give up. So no, I'm very unhappy with Obama. I'm going to work for him like crazy, and his second term, I'm hoping there's enough grassroots people around to push him in the direction I want to go. So everybody wake up, vote, work for grassroots candidates, have a hell of a good time, and let's take this country back from the super PACs, really.
Jason, do you want to venture forth into a political discussion, or keep it close to the vest?
Go for it, because...
Well,
are you running for city council?
well, no, but when I ran for student council in my junior year of high school, I have a great little story. No.
Please do.
I have to say I agree. I'm a bit let down by the way this first term has panned out, but I am still a staunch supporter of Mr. Obama, and certainly hope he gets to stay put for another 4 years. But Steven's right. I mean, it's really interesting how big changes come from ostensibly small communities, small ideas, small people. It's at the grassroots level. It really is. And so with the right people behind him, and around him, I think there's really the sky's the limit. I mean, the issue was we initially, in '08, we were like, sky's the limit, and we just assumed he would hit the sky right away. And inevitably you're going to be, let down. And that being said, he did do things to clearly let us down, but yeah, Obama 2012.
And I think also when you're making a movie, you don't just make it, and I know this more and more, and just go, I'm done, I'm an artist, I'm done. You have to distribute it, you have to market it now, you have to get it, roll up your sleeves, and really be an adult about this process of making the movie. Same thing about campaigning, and I think there's a wonderful intersection here between this movie and the 2012 election, and the intersection really sits primarily in some laughter. I mean, let's have some fun with this. Let's laugh. Let's laugh at ourselves. Let's laugh at a process. And laughter frees you up, gives you energy, and you can go out and work on it. In 2012 and the next 4 years, and then the 4 years after that, and after that, the rest of your life, you keep at this stuff.
Yeah, in case anyone's concerned based on our discussion that this movie is more political tracked than not, it definitely is not that. It's a very, very funny movie. It really feels it's like a political comedy to me about grassroots level. And it could be a Tea Party level grassroots, or it could be, a left-wing grassroots, but the idea is that it's the little people trying to get a voice. So then we have to then ask you about Grant Cogswell. What's your take on him? Because he is like over the moon in some ways. He seems like the most undisciplined, impractical guy you could possibly imagine. And at the same time, he's driven, he's passionate. What's your take on Grant Cogswell, both of you guys?
Well, he spent a lot of time with... I've had the pleasure of meeting and spending a little bit of time with Grant Cogswell, but Steven has spent quite a bit of time with the man.
I think all the way down through history, there have been those people who've been just a little ahead, one step ahead. And I think being one step ahead, they look around and sometimes say to themselves, am I crazy? Mm-hmm. On the other hand, they're one step ahead. And I think Grant is one of those people. So he doesn't quite make sense to a lot of people. Sometimes I think, doesn't make sense anywhere. But he's right. I mean, he's right about the monorail. He's right about so much of what he talks about. And those are the people that change the country. I mean, ultimately, either you believe in evolution or you're not. I happen, strangely, to believe in the process of evolution. There seems to be some evidence. And evolution takes place because people are looking ahead.
Yeah.
So I think Grant is looking ahead, and I think Grant is a terrific guy, actually, and it's not exactly the character in the movie. We push things a little bit because it's a comedy, folks. So we're gonna play around with it, you know. And it's like, but I think I think he's a really interesting character, and it is correct to have a movie about him. And,
Yeah.
You know, and I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of the movie that sort of spotlights somebody who is, you know, a forward thinker, but it makes you laugh, which is it's hard to look into the future. You better laugh.
So I'm going to talk to him and your counterpart tomorrow. Have they seen the movie, and have you had a chance to kind of get their take on your versions of them?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Phil wrote a piece for the Huffington Post, and I write for Huffington Post too sometimes. And he wrote, "They trashed my book. I love the movie." And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a wonderful piece of journalism right then and there.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. I think you have to rape and pillage a book and not be a slave to either what happened or to the book.
Yeah.
And you have to be servant. We all have to be servant to the movie, whatever the movie is. It is. And Grant saw the movie yesterday. I think he's still recovering.
I'll let you know when I talk to him tomorrow how his recovery is coming along. And now you said you didn't have a chance to talk and spend a lot of time with Grant. How about with your counterpart, with Phil? Did you deal with him much?
A little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
in sort of short stints. He was on set once or twice, and I got to hang out with him.